Hello everyone, I'm Satyajit Pattnaik and welcome back to my channel. You're watching the Python course playlist and today's video is on Python for data science and we'll shall be talking about the NumPy module. I hope you're already clear with the previous topics. If not, please go back to the videos in my playlist and study them. Link to the videos are already in the description below. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified on my future videos. Let's get started. Now, if you're already here by going through all my previous videos, I'm assuming that you might be having an intermediate level of Python experience or Python knowledge, which is more than enough. And now we shall be jumping on to the sixth chapter, which is Python for data science. So the chapter which we all have waited for, because we shall be jumping our career from XYZ domain to data science, and we are learning Python for that, right? So we shall be talking about the very basic library today, which is going to be NumPy. And apart from that, in our next videos, we shall be talking about the pandas library, and then we shall be talking about matplotlib libraries. And again, we shall be talking about some of the more libraries which is being used in data science. Okay, so today's video is all about NumPy. Please watch it till the end so that you get an understanding on what exactly NumPy does, what is the basic idea of introducing NumPy, because all these activities which is done by NumPy library, it was already done in Python as well. But why we created NumPy library? We shall be talking about that. Okay, so as you can see this particular example, NumPy can be used to store one-dimensional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, and so on. Okay, now what is NumPy? The meaning of NumPy is nothing but very simple. It's going to be numerical Python. All the numerical activities has to be done by NumPy library. Now, it was introduced as part of your data analysis activity when you are jumping your career from a Python developer to a data analyst role or kind of a data scientist role. We have to work with huge amount of data, right? And that's where NumPy comes into picture. Now we'll try to understand what exactly NumPy is. NumPy is a library written for scientific computing and data analysis. It stands for numerical Python, as I already told. The most basic object in NumPy is a NumPy array. Python is incapable of operating over the entire data stored in lists. This is where NumPy arrays come to the rescue. Now, the very first point is going to be, you can see this particular graph. NumPy vectorize is taking the least amount of time for a particular loop as compared to map function, as compared to a list comprehension, as compared to your normal for loop, right? So in our very beginning of the particular course, maybe the third episode or the fourth one, we understood how to write down a for loop. Then we understood how to write down a list comprehension, and then we understood map function, right? So you are kind of working. I would say step by step we are going towards that particular phase where we shall be using certain activities or certain functions which will be very fast in terms of time taken. Okay, and that's where NumPy has come for the rescue. You can see the for NumPy the time taken for a loop is going to be very less as compared to the other techniques. Okay, so let's try to understand more about NumPy. As I told, NumPy is used for computation and processing of single and multidimensional array of elements, smaller memory consumption, and better runtime behavior. Okay, so the very first command which we need to do, that it's going to be pip install NumPy. So in order to install your NumPy application or your NumPy library in your particular system, you have to go to your command prompt, or if you are using any other command line, or if you are having Anaconda Navigator, you go to your Anaconda prompt. In that, just type pip install NumPy. So it should be able to install it very quickly. And once that is done, you can play around with your NumPy library. Okay. Now let's quickly jump onto the practicals so that we can understand how to deal with NumPy. So as you can see, I have already created our file. named as NumPy. So the very first command is going to be importing the NumPy because we recently installed NumPy, right? Now NumPy has to be installed using pip install NumPy. Okay. Now once you are done with that, that means NumPy is already installed in your system. Then what we need to do is we have to import NumPy. Every time you write a new piece of code, if you are using NumPy, you have to import it. Very similarly, in data science, there would be a lot of libraries you would be working with. sklearn, statistics, pandas, matplotlib, Facebook Prophet. There could be n number of libraries. To use any library, you have to import them. Okay. So import NumPy as NP. Now as NP means when I'm importing NumPy, if if the next step I'm going to use NumPy dot some function or some internal method of NumPy, I don't have to write NumPy every time, right? That is the reason I have defined as NP means NP is going to be an alias for NumPy, also known as NP. Okay, so I'll just write down that. And then let's try to create a basic NumPy array. A is equals to np.array 1, 2, 3. Now if I just print A, okay, let me print A here itself in the same cell, print A. Okay, so this is how your NumPy array has been created. Now obviously I'm just showing you using some random numbers, but yeah, in case you are dealing with a real data set or something like that, you have to, if you are going to do some operations on a particular column, you have to read it first and then convert it into a NumPy arrays. So it's going to be like very easy for you. Just try to understand the basic operations of NumPy and then you can jump onto that particular part. Okay, so now my NumPy array has been created. Now let's try to create a NumPy array with some float values. Okay, so this is what these are, integer values, right? I have created a list of integers. So if you want to create a float NumPy array, maybe you can pass it like this. Okay, so by default it will create it as floats. But if you are going to pass the integers and then still you want to make it a float output as a float value, so we can select the data type uh, function, I would say. So data type is defined by d type in NumPy, d type float. If I do this, so you can see it is 1.0, 2.0 and 3.0. Okay, NumPy arrays are written like this. 1.0 is written as 1 dot only. Okay, now what else? Let's try to create a 2D array. I'll just copy paste this NumPy array. So it's a 2D. So let's create array of array. Maybe 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6. Okay, and let's close this. Let's make it B, print B. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Very similarly, you can just play around with it. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Sorry, I just printed C. I just printed B. So this is how it looks like. Now you can make it more complex, make it 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional. You just keep adding that. Okay. Now, apart from that, let's try to understand the basic, I would say some of the basic methods which are present under NumPy library, which you might use very often when you start working with the data analysis activities, or when you enter the data science model, like the module. So there is something called as get dimension of a NumPy array. So how to get your dimension? Let's say A. Okay, so I'll do A dot. Now if you're not clear with it, A dot endim. If you're not clear with it, you can simply go to the documentations part and you can see NumPy array. Okay, the documentations are very clear. You can see these are some of the parameters. We just passed d type as float, right? In one of our steps. See, So this is one of the parameter. Apart from that, there are many more parameters. If you want to know more about it, you can see copy, order, and min, all these things. How to use? Simple. See np.array. So I'm just taking the same examples for us to understand more. Okay. Now, so to get the right dimensions, I have used the ndim method. So let's check the dimension for C. Okay, C is 2D, right? Because it has two arrays. You can see two braces. That means it's a two-dimensional array. So the dimension is 2. That means n is 2. Okay. Now if you just create a D here and make it like this, and if you create d.dim, obviously it will be 3, right? Now how to get a shape of a NumPy array? Simple. A dot shape. You can see the shape is 3. Now let's check the shape of B. You can see it's 2 dimensions, right? The shape of B is, it should be 2 cross 3. Sorry, it's 2 cross 3, right? That means 2 rows and 3 columns. As simple as that. Here it is 3 rows and 3 columns. You can see, let's try C dot shape. C dot shape. It's 3 cross 3. Okay. So shape will give you an idea about what is the shape of your array. Is it a 2 cross 2 array? It's a 3 cross 3, 4 cross 4, or something like that. Okay. You get an idea about it. Apart from that, if I want to select, now I have selected A as 1, 2, 3, right? And everything is, now let me just print it out. So right now A has float values. Now if I want to see the data type of A dot D type I think. So you can see the data type is float. Now if I just run this command again, I'll just make it A underscore int. I'll run this and then I will run A underscore int dot D type. It should return integer. Okay. So the data types are returned by using the D type method. What else? Now let's see how to access or change specific elements or rows or columns in an array. Okay, in a NumPy array, obviously. Let's try to create a markdown. Accessing or changing specific elements, rows and columns, etc. Okay, I'll just keep it simple. Let's make it 2. Let's make it basic operations. Okay, so let's start accessing or changing specific elements. So even let's try to create a NumPy array first. A equals to np.array. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, let me print it out. Print of A. Okay, this is how my array looks like. Now, how to get a specific row and a column? Now, I think you already have worked with lists, so I think you might be having a basic idea how to get it, but let me show you how to get it. Get a specific row from a NumPy array. So let's say I want to get the first row. Okay, so what I'll do is A of 0 colon. No, before that, now obviously we have got this, but before that, let me also explain you how to get a specific element. R, C. Okay, specific element. Let's say this element, or you can say first row and fourth column. So first row and fourth column. How to get it? So A of first row means the index starts from 0. So we have two indexes, 0 and 1. So the first row's index will be 0, comma, what is the column? I want the fourth column. That means 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So if you want the fourth column and first row value, first row means you have to pass, so you have to pass row, comma, column, as simple as that. I'm passing 0 as my row because my index starts from 0, and I'm passing 3 because 0, 1, 2, 3. Let me run this. So here is my element. Okay, this we already know that if I want to get a specific row, then I have to do 0. That means I'm passing the row. I want 0th row, but column I haven't specified. That means I want it for everything. Okay. Now let's just copy this and let's see, get a specific column from an NumPy array. It will be the opposite, right? Let's say 0. That means it will give me was 1 and 8. Okay, so I'm not defining any row. I don't know whether it is from the first row or the second row. So I'm keeping it open. I just want the first column. That means the 0th column. So I'm getting an output as 1, 8. Now if you want the first column and first row, that means the first element. So again you have to pass 0, 0, colon 0. Okay, as simple as that. So I think this is clear. So this is all about the accessing, changing, and specific elements, rows, and columns. Apart from that, now obviously, if I want to change, let's show how to change the values. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instead of 5, I want to make it 50. I'll just mention change the fifth value in first column to 50. So how to access fifth value in first column, fifth value in first row. Okay, so fifth column in first row. Okay, that means this 5. So a of 0 comma 4, this will give me the value, right? So what I can do is this equals to 50. Now if I just run a, you can see the values are updated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 50, 6, 7. Okay, easy. Apart from that, there is also one more. You can also check. There is a method called as zeros. So let me show you how to create. Let's say you want to create a NumPy array, a 2D array with just zeros. Okay. So there is a method inside your NumPy array which is np.zeros. Again, we also have np.ones as well. But let's see how np.zeros work. So if I pass np.zeros 3, 3, that means I want a 3 cross 3 matrix with all the values as 0. So I can easily create it. You don't have to define it this way. Like this equals to 0, 0, 0, 0. And this equals to 0, 0, 0, comma 0, 0, 0, comma 0, 0. It's not required. Okay, np.zeros. Similarly, we also have np.ones. Now why we have this zeros and ones method? There must be some reason, right? Because I will not be able to explain you why, because it's too early for us to understand why we deals with zeros and ones when it comes to data analysis. Because ultimately what happens is when we work on categorical data, now let's say I'm dealing with a data set where I have gender. Now gender can be male and female, or it can be transgender. So I cannot pass the values as it is to the model that this is the value is female, the value is male, right? The computers understand only numerical data. If we pass categorical data, it will not be able to understand, right? So there are some techniques in machine learning or in data science, whatever you can call it. We have to convert categorical data to numerical data in order to pass the values in the model. Okay, so there will be definitely n number of uses, like n number of scenarios where you might use your zeros and ones method. So just for that sake, let's keep it aside. Let's not talk about that part right now. But yeah, let's try to see how these functions work, how these methods work. Okay. Now by default, it's actually float. Now if you want to define it as an integer value, what you need to do is you need to call your dtype function in 32. Very similar to this case, dtype equals to float. Okay. So if I just run this, you can see the array is now having the integer values. Now let's say you want to create an array similar to this, but you don't want zeros and ones. Let's say you want 10 or 20. So how to do that? There is also one method called as np.full. np.full, I want to define it should be a 3 cross 3 matrix. Here I will just pass my value, let's say 50. So you can see 50, 50, 50. I haven't tried this, but it should also work. Yeah, it's working. So if you define the dtype method also, it's going to be it's working. Actually, it's basically working, right? So zeros, ones, and full. I hope you are clear with it. Now let's say I want to create a NumPy array with some random values. So there is a method called as rand. I think it's random.rand. I'm not sure. Let's try rand 3 cross 3. 3 cross 3 should work. No, my bad. It's random.rand. Okay. Tuple cannot be considered. Okay, I had given extra braces. So this is how your random values are populated in a 3 cross 3 matrix. If you want 4 cross 4, like up to you basically. If you want the, I'm not sure if it works with D type parameter, but let's try. No, it's not working. So the random method doesn't work with the D type. Okay, so it's a randomly generated number. Now what else? I think if you want to create a random NumPy array with just integer values, I think there must be something else. I think, not sure. Random dot rand int. Okay. Okay, we do have rand int. So let's see how rand int works. So instead of rand, you just call rand int. Okay, np.random. Let's see. Size equals to 3,3. np.random.rand int. Okay, my bad. Okay, it should work. No? -4 to 4. Okay, I just have to provide a range here. For which range to what range? So size. So this is how it has been designed. This is how the I would say the syntax is, right? So you have to define what should be your range. It should be between -4 to 4. The value should be randomized, and it's a 3 cross 3 matrix. This is how you have to use your rand int. Apart from that, if you also want to create an identity matrix, I hope everybody might already be knowing about the identity matrix. It's nothing but, you can see diagonal it is 0, 1, 1, 1. Okay. So that's it about the NumPy. I think we have covered almost everything. NumPy arrays. Okay, we have missed out something. We haven't covered yet the arithmetic operations. Let's try to cover arithmetic operations. Arithmetic operations with NumPy. NumPy. So it's maths plus stats. Okay. So let's try to do some arithmetic operations. Let's try to create a NumPy array first. np.array 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's create this. And obviously the output of this will be very clear. It will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if I do a plus 2, it should work. Okay, it should work, and it has worked. So the basic operations are still working with NumPy arrays. If you are doing plus, minus, divided by, multiplication, so everything works. So do it for minus, divide, and multiplication. Let's try. A minus 2 works. A into 2 works. A divided by 3 works. A This works. Okay, I think almost everything is working. Almost all the possibilities of mathematical operations are working. Let's do to the power 2. It's working. To the power 3. Okay, so almost all the operations are satisfied. I would say satisfied, or maybe you can say, you can call it as working. So this is how your arithmetic operations are working in case of your NumPy arrays. Now I have already created this array 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's try to understand some of the other mathematical operations or other mathematical methods under NumPy. There is something called as min, like what is the minimum value in that particular array. So a dot min will give you the output of that particular array. A dot max should return 4, and it has returned 4. Apart from that, I'm not pretty sure about the average method. Let's see if mean works. Okay, so the mean is working. So mean, max, and mean is still working. Okay. Similarly, you can just randomly try it out, and if you don't get an output, maybe you can go and check out their NumPy documentation. That will be very straightforward, and it will be very easier for you to understand. Now let's try to create a two-dimensional array. np.array 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's keep it this way. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Data. Okay, my bad. Okay, so let's print it. So A looks like this. Now, see. So np.maxA also works, or else a.max also works. Okay, you can use anything. Similarly, let's try to see np.min, np.mean, np.sum. You can see everything, all the mathematical operations are actually working. Now, let's say I just want to see. Let's also see what is np.max of a axis equals to 1. You can see which axis is having the maximum value. So this is having the maximum value. So it is printing me 4 and 8. Now if I just do axis 0, it will print me the row, right? Axis 1 is giving me the column, and axis 0 will give me the row. Like in which row your maximum value is located. Very simple, right? Similarly, if you want to see the minimum thing, you can see. So the minimum value, which is 1, it's present in the first row. Which column? The first column, having 1 and 5. Okay. Similarly, you can also see sum. You can also do it for axis 0, np.sum. Okay, these are some of the operations which are possible in NumPy. I think for the time being, these are more than enough for you to get started with. Obviously, once we clear out pandas, matplotlib, and there will be some extra classes as well. After we have gone through the basic classes, I will definitely be releasing some of the advanced classes on data visualizations and how to do some kind of exploratory data analysis and all those things, where we will be using NumPy arrays and pandas libraries very vastly. Okay, so stay tuned. For the time being, we are winding up the class here itself. Next class will be on pandas. So if you like the video, please like, subscribe among you. Keep supporting. Thank you guys.